Welcome back to PC Builder. I'm Jason. We got so many great questions for this month's Q&A. What about the new GPU market and all these new GPU releases? Are we going to see pricing come back to normal for new mid-range cards in 2023? And what do we think of the new RTX 4080 GPU as well as ARC GPUs? Are they making a dent in the market? We'll tackle the CPU question. Have CPUs gotten so fast that we don't need the new expensive Ryzen 7000 V-Cache CPUs coming down the pike? Or have GPUs finally overtaken them where we should all be upgrading? We'll also take a look at Black Friday deals. Should you be buying things right now to avoid them selling out on Black Friday, or can you wait for the best deal possible? If you get value out of the video, give it a like. It makes a huge difference to the channel, especially this guy right here. And of course, subscribe and click that bell icon. That way you get notified when we release cool content. With that, let's jump into it. This video is sponsored by Best Buy. Massively upgrade your gaming and streaming setup, starting with the incredible Razer Viper V2 Pro wireless gaming mouse for high performance, low latency competitive play. Enjoy clear comms and reactive lighting effects with the Razer Kraken Kitty gaming headset with noise canceling microphone. Stream and game for hours in comfort with the Razer Isker X ergonomic chair. Capture everything at professional quality with the Canon EOS R10 camera, including a lightning fast autofocus and 24.2 megapixel sensor. And the Corsair Elgato Wave 3 ensures clear broadcast quality sound to any streaming platform. Upgrade your gaming and streaming experience at a great price using the Best Buy links in the video description. Let's start off where else GPU prices. Let's start off with used this time. We always do new first. Let's start off with used GPU prices because the 23rd gamer kind of comes at me a little bit, which is fine, absolutely fine. Can we get a guide on getting used GPUs? They're still very expensive across the board, and for a couple months, the flood of used GPUs was all most tech YouTubers were talking about. Big upvote on that one, 31. Where are all those used GPUs, Jason? You promised that when Ethereum went to proof of stake, all this hashing power out there, 30 plus million GPUs would come flooding back into the market. I did tell you it was going to take months. Remember, miners out there just saw their entire way of life explode. It completely evaporated in front of them. This is not a happy moment for them. They're not selling these GPUs because they're like, yay, I can't wait to ship these off to eBay. They have to disassemble their rigs. First of all, they've got to come to terms with the fact that it's not coming back. And a lot of these miners, I'm in the Ethereum mining Reddit channel and others, there are folks who actually buy up used GPUs from miners kind of wholesale. Then they disassemble the rigs, they clean them up, and they sell them off. And what they're saying is, look, these miners are living in an alternate reality right now. They think that mining hardware, GPU hardware, is going to continue to appreciate in value, and they don't see the price connected to the price of the GPU itself and the GPU market. They see the price connected to the crypto market, and they believe that crypto is going to come back 6 months, a year from now. Some kind of coin will go moon, as they call it, to the moon, and that'll bring GPU mining back. Absolutely will not happen, by the way. First of all, crypto is crashing. It's crashing really hard right now. But even that being said, no new coins that have any kind of real value to them are GPU mineable coins. They're all proof of stake already. It's just cheaper. It's easier. You don't have to deal with miners. You don't have to deal with that whole 51% attack thing. I see GPU prices on the used market, they will come down, but it's going to take a while. And the miners are actually even more resistant to selling their GPUs than I thought they would be. And they're just living in their own alternate reality bubble. So those cards are coming back. We saw this in 2018, 2019 when crypto crashed. We will see it again. But also remember, a lot of those miners that got into mining, they didn't ROI. They never made their initial money back. So they're sitting on cards, on GPUs for which they still owe a lot of money. And they're not quite sure what to do. If they sell the cards off, that means they're not going to be able to make money with it. Yes, they'll make some amount selling the cards off, but it's really a horrible situation for them to be in. They're not happy campers. That's why they're sitting around not sure what to do. Let's also just quickly address where are used prices right now. Well, if you look and if you watch our most recent GPU market update video, I'll leave a link to it down in the video description. Yeah, used prices are actually massively down. They're not expensive. They're actually massively down. Now, if you look at the RTX 3000 series used GPUs, yes, they're still more expensive than I would buy right now. They're only a little bit of a discount off. Unless you're looking for like a 3090, you can get one for less than $800 right now, especially if you're really good at eBay, you probably get one even less than that. But if you're looking for older generation used GPUs, RTX 2000 series, the GTX 1660 Super, RX 580, and of course the RX 50 700 XT, which is a phenomenal value right now. I just think I went over and over and over in that one in the best GPUs in November. Those are great GPUs to go out and get, and they're way less than 200 bucks. These are GPUs that were being sold for over $1,000 each because they were such great mining GPUs. Miners were like literally killing each other to get one for $1,000, and now you can pick one up for like 180, 170 bucks. And of course, in terms of buying a used GPU, Linus did say he's coming out with a guide, so I did put my plans on hold, but we'll definitely take a look at, teaching folks how to buy the used GPU, how to clean them up, and how to get them working for you. Record, Evil Eyeball, Arnab, and others ask about what's going on with current GPU prices. When are we going to get mid-range GPUs? When are we going to get budget GPUs? What's the strategy there? How should folks be thinking about this in terms of price and availability? Should you be buying what's available right now, or should you be waiting? Here's the short answer to all this. I'm saying this the day that the RTX 4080 benchmarks just came out. The card goes on sale tomorrow. I expect it to completely sell out tomorrow within 24 hours. And just like the 4090, I expect it to be very difficult to get probably until next year. That's just the way it's going to go. And let's just talk very quickly about the 4080. My nutshell is it's absolutely not worth the money. Not worth the money. If you're going to, because first of all, they've marked up most of the models because for the 4090s, they had a lot of models at the MSRP of about $1,600. But they learned because the 4090 sold out, they're like, oh, hey, look, people are going to buy these things no matter what. If you look at the MSRPs of the 4080 models, there's only a handful now at the MSRP. Most of them are well over it, including there's some models that are almost as much as the 4090. Why would you buy a 4080? I don't care how souped up that thing is. That 4090 base model is going to be way faster, way better. So overall, I think great performance on that card, but horrible price. $1,200 versus the 3080 launched 2 years ago at $699. So that's almost double the price, not worth it. And if you look at the performance where the 6950 XT comes out in all those benchmark charts, you'll note that AMD says, hey, our next gen GPUs, the 7900 XTX and 7900 XT are going to be 1.7, 1.5 times faster. If we even go conservatively 50% faster, basically, than the 6950 XT, it puts it well ahead of where the 4080 is. So yeah, and maybe some folks are interested in ray tracing. Actually, we have a good question on that we'll get to later. Let's talk about mid-range GPUs. I expect January CES, which we'll be at, by the way, our first CES. I'm super excited about it, that we'll get some mid-range GPUs announced. We'll probably get the 4070 Ti, which was the 4080 12 gigabyte. We may just get a 4070. Who knows what NVIDIA will call that, but we'll get some card out there that was going to be the 4080 12 gigabyte. And I'm pretty sure we'll also get like the 7800 XTX and 7800, along with possibly an announcement about Ryzen 7000 V-Cache chips. So all that's super exciting. What I love about the pricing of AMD's 7900 XTX, which is their top end card, for $999. It's the same price as the announced 6900 XT 2 years ago at $999. So as they fill out their overall tier bracket, those prices should fall. I expect the cards will be a little bit more expensive than previous generation. I don't have any problem with that. That's historically been the case. We understand inflation's a real thing. We understand production costs can go up. That's fine. But doubling your MSRP, that's crazy. That's just crazy sauce, right? That's what we don't agree with. That being said, I expect those AMD mid-range cards to really help preserve pricing. And I think that's going to impact where NVIDIA prices its mid-range cards in the future. I don't know how long 4080s will sell for $1,200. We'll have to see. If you are waiting for like low-end budget cards on the NVIDIA side, you're going to be waiting a very long time. Their strategy is clearly to delay those cards as long as possible to sell off the RTX 3000 stock. And from everything I hear, they still have a lot of 3070s, 3060s, and others to sell. So you're just going to be waiting quite a while. And look, we just got the 3050 not even a year ago. They're not going to replace that card anytime soon, especially not when people are buying it up at $300, way over its MSRP, when it's completely outclassed by a $190 RX 6600, or even a last generation RTX 2060 for $260. On the AMD side, I think they will get around to replacing their GPUs a little faster. It's been a little over a year that we got the 6600 XT and 6600. So I do expect those probably in the summertime though. I wouldn't really wait for any of this stuff. Maybe the 4070, but honestly, I think the cards that we have right now, even a 6950 XT for $700, not the worst deal in the world, especially if for whatever reason that's your price limit and you can't find the 7900 XT money at $900. But I think that waiting, yeah, Black Friday deals are going to be really good this year. So is everything going to sell out? Often things sell out on Black Friday. Some things will completely sell out, some things won't. I think we'll see a lot more GPU deals this year because of the oversupply of GPUs. Isn't that just funny? Last year there were like no GPU deals. I think there was one, and it was like $10 or $15 off. This year I do think we'll see some steep deals, especially on AMD GPUs. If you're willing to buy one, this is a really, really good time to get an upgrade for not that much money. I think we'll see AMD typically makes it rain on CPUs of older generation. I'm super hopeful that we'll see Ryzen 7000 deals. I'm sure Intel will follow suit with some deals as well. So yeah, I think you can wait. It's okay. That being said, if you see something that's really good, most retailers have Black Friday price protection, which is that if you buy it now and the price goes down and you put a customer service tag in, they'll refund you the difference. So I wouldn't hesitate to buy anything that you need that you think's already on a good deal. All right, Tobias asks, and this will be a quick one, what about the Intel Arc GPUs? Are they worth buying or even attention? I'm gonna tell you right now, they're absolutely not worth buying until they get their thing fixed. And it's not even clear that all of that is software fixable, that is driver fixable. Some of those issues might be hardware related, and they'll have to fix that in the next generation of GPUs. So yes, the ARC 770 and ARC 750, in some games, they've got really phenomenal performance. I think there's a lot to be excited about potentially for Battle Mage, which is the next generation, but this generation is absolutely terrible. I don't even think Intel should be selling these things. That's my personal opinion. I think it's anti-consumer. I think a lot of people are going to buy these things thinking they're getting a finished product, when in fact they are not getting a finished product. If you want to sell them as a science project, that's fine, but it needs a big disclaimer on it. So I would not buy Intel Arc GPUs. I would not recommend them to anybody. Can you imagine somebody who only has about $300 something out there to spend and say, oh, it comes back with an Arc 770 for $329, and then they have driver issues and half the features don't work and it doesn't work in a lot of the older games that they want to play? Think about that person. It's just absolutely insane when you got a lot of really good lower budget GPUs like the RX 6600, the 6650 XT, 6600 XT, the 6700, the 6700 XT, all out there for about the same price. I just would absolutely avoid Intel GPUs. We got a really good question from Sam, which is, does ray tracing make really any gameplay experience better? And honestly, this is such a personal preference question that we decided to go out and ask you guys out there what you thought. We put up a poll, 26,000 people voted in the poll on YouTube. If we take out the cat option, if we just divide out those results, we got about 5.5% said ray tracing is absolutely critical to them. They're willing to spend extra money, lose FPS for it. Then we've got about 14% said ray tracing is important. They'll trade a little bit of money or a little bit of FPS for it. So that was like 19% total. But the vast majority of people, in fact, the super majority, 81%, either said that ray tracing, it's nice, but they won't give any extra FPS and they won't spend any extra money on it, or that they don't care about it at all. So there's your breakdown. I mean, it's not really for me and for YouTubers to decide. It's really for the market to decide what the value of ray tracing is. And if that's any indication, I think that people aren't sold on ray tracing. And ray tracing at this point has been around for years and years and years. So I think the market is still speaking that, this ray tracing thing, if you give it to me for free and I don't have to pay anything, FPS or money, that's fine. But otherwise, I don't really care. We got a lot of great questions from Sellout Artist, Raptor 5, and Sagite about what about CPUs? Have they just gotten too fast? What's the best platform for gaming right now? And should you be waiting for something like the Ryzen 7000 V-Cache CPUs if you're gaming at 1440p? Does any of that even matter? Well, listen, I think if you look at the RTX 4090, and this actually might change depending on the 7900 XTX. The 7900 XTX, in previous testing, like Hardware Unboxed found that NVIDIA's GPU overhead on the CPU was much higher than AMD's. So what does that mean? You needed basically a stronger CPU to run an NVIDIA GPU than you did for an AMD CPU, because the AMD overhead in terms of the drivers and CPU resources it was being tied up was much less. So the 7900 XTX, we might find there is no CPU bottleneck. Right now, we're only really seeing a bottleneck at 1440p with the RTX 4090, and that's with the fastest CPUs that we have. Everything else absolutely fine. But what's going on? We're moving away from 1440p with the RTX 4090 to 4K because it's capable of doing like 144 FPS basically at 4K, even higher FPS. And we'll have to see in terms of the 7900 XTX if what it's able to do at 4K as well. But we're only seeing that CPU bind at 1440p on the super high-end GPU. Why is that? That's because CPUs have gotten so much faster. Look how much more performance we get out of our CPUs today than we did just a couple generations ago when Intel was the only game in town. This is like 5-6 years ago before Ryzen launched. Intel, Ryzen, doesn't matter which one you buy. They're both phenomenal products, in my opinion, both phenomenal value. You can go ahead and pick whichever one suits you best. And then you have options. That's great. Hopefully in the GPU market, we will see something like that soon. However, NVIDIA being such a monopolistic player in the GPU market, it's kind of hard to say that that's going to happen soon. I'm really hopeful AMD will break through. I was hopeful Intel would make a dent. Intel didn't make a dent. What do I think is the best platform right now? Honestly, if you want to go out and get a 5800X 3D, and we just did a build here on the channel, check it out. I'll leave a link to it down in the video description. But if you want to go out and get like a Ryzen 7600X, 7700X, yeah, those are great too. Intel 13600K just seems like phenomenal value, especially if you do any serious amount of production work, video editing on the side, in addition to your gaming system. Right now, I don't think it makes any difference. And unless you're buying a 4090 and you want to play at 4K, then yeah, go out and get a 13900K because you already spent $1,700 or probably $2,500 on your graphics card by the time you got it from a scalper. That being said, for everybody else, yeah, as long as you get like the latest Ryzen 5800X 3D or Ryzen 5000 CPU or 12th or 13th gen Intel, you're kind of top of the heap right now and probably will be for quite some time. Let's do a speed round. First from Edgar, we've got, hi Jason and the cats, what's the most recurrent mistake you see on Boost My Build? How do you avoid them? Well, the most recurrent mistake, number one, mismatched CPU GPU combo. We have a whole video on how to do this. I'll leave a link to it. We'll put up the thumbnail for it. Go watch that video. It's getting a little older. We will refresh it in the new year once we get, I think, Ryzen 7000 V-Cache CPUs out. But basically, you should be understanding what your use case is. And if you're mostly gaming, then you want to get the fastest GPU you can afford and a CPU that just won't bottleneck it. We go through the whole thing in there, but in a nutshell, that is the biggest problem I see in Boost My Build, and it leads to some absolutely horrific builds. All right, Perseus asked a really specific question in terms of AMD and production software, mostly blend or render. I will say this about AMD is making this a point of emphasis. That being said, this will likely take years for them to catch up to NVIDIA. I'm hopeful that in the next 6 months to a year, we will see AMD close the gap significantly enough where you can consider either buying an AMD or an NVIDIA GPU as long as you're gaming and doing production work. I think give it another probably product cycle until AMD is at par with NVIDIA if you're 100% production focused. That being said, you should also, if you're 100% production focused, you should also be looking at professional quality cards as well, not just the consumer gaming cards. Spoonman asked a great question about thermal paste, especially with current generation CPUs running so hot near the thermal limit. Does it make sense to spring more for like the expensive Cryonaut kind of thermal grizzly stuff, or should you just stick with what comes on the cooler itself if it does come with any kind of paste? Let me tell you this. I think, yeah, if you're buying a 13th gen Intel CPU or you're buying Ryzen 7000, the cost difference between, say, like an Arctic MX4, which is what I typically use, Arctic MX4, MX5, about $8 for, I think it's like 4 or 8 grams. It's a tube basically, and it's many applications in that one tube. Or a tube of thermal grizzly stuff for about 20, 25 bucks. The price difference is relatively innocuous. If you're already going to buy like a 13900K, who cares if you spend 12 or 15 bucks more on the thermal paste? That being said, the difference to me is really it's the maintenance period. So my understanding, and I did double check this, I can't find anything on Thermal Grizzly's website in terms of the maintenance period, but it looks like it's every 2 years is recommended to change the Cryonaut stuff. It does perform better, but I don't want to change my paste every 2 years. Maybe I'm just lazy. I don't know. That would drive me insane. Arctic MX4, MX5, that will last for up to 8 years. 8 years. Now, listen, you can obviously change it sooner than that if you feel like it's necessary, but basically it's kind of set it and forget it for the rest of the useful life of that PC. If you're gonna go 13900K though, and maybe you're gonna change this build anyway in a couple of years, yeah, I mean, go ahead and spring for it. I don't see it as a cost difference. I just see it as more of a maintenance difference. And Money Marriage Media asks, been wanting to ask this the last couple of vids, how in the world do you get the LEDs on your fans to work without them spinning? Well, they're not spinning right now, and I'll show you. I mean, I can make them spin. This is just fan software. I think I use ASUS Fan Expert 4. This system right here has an ASUS ROG Strix B550-F motherboard in it, which I like quite a bit, by the way. More expensive than its competitors. That being said, I think I do really like the feature set on it. I do like ASUS Fan Expert 4, but it has some bugs that drive me absolutely crazy with it. Like, you can't put it on the lowest level because it'll turn my water pump below 100%, which I don't like, and there's no way to change it. ASUS, get on that. I should be able to edit that fan profile, by the way. I don't know why I can't. But if I put it on the standard profile, you can actually check a box in there so that the fans will stop spinning if the temperature of the CPU reaches a certain thermal threshold, if it doesn't need it, basically, in order to kind of run silent. And that's what it does. I just put it on silent. Now, if the CPU gets too hot, it'll spin back up. The RGB is totally separate, by the way, from fan. Remember, there's two wires that come off those fans. There's an RGB wire, and then there's typically your PW, your either 3-pin voltage or your 4-pin PWM power pins on them that you plug into the fan controller, or you plug into the motherboard fan header instead. So those are two totally different things, and you should be able to get them to run at the same time. If you got value out of this video, remember to give it a like. It makes a huge difference, especially this guy right here. And of course, subscribe and click that bell icon. That way you get notified when we release cool content. Now, if you missed our best Ryzen 7000 motherboard guide or best Intel 13th gen motherboard guide, check them out right here. Whether or not you're thinking of building Intel or Ryzen 7000 right now, check out what your options are. And we'll catch you on the next one.